Sorry, acknowledgement of the country. Our workshop today is being held on the land of the traditional owners of the Burong people of the Kulin Nation, and I wish to acknowledge them as the traditional owners of where I am in Victoria for this evening. And I pay my respects to the elders past and present and emerging, and I extend my respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today as well. There we go. Okay, so as Mel explained, I am the lead mentor and head coach for Melbourne RoboCats FRC 5648, and we've just started the first FTC team here in Victoria as well, and looking to grow FTC in Victoria, and our team number is 29081. I'm also the president for the Melbourne off-season event, which is the Melbourne Robotics Tournament, which is held in July of each year, usually on the term 2 holidays. And I also look after all the volunteers and everything else that goes on with running the tournament for MRT. I also have been volunteering with FIRST for the last 8 years for FLL, FRC, and now this year, hopefully, with some FTC events as well. Okay, I am going to also put a bit of a disclaimer here. I would like just to commence today that I will be sharing what I'm sharing today basically reflects things that have worked for my teams. And as a result, the results may vary for other teams depending on their goals and the context that they are going to be using. Okay, so the agenda for today, I'm going to touch on outreach. What is outreach? Why is it important? Why we really need to focus on that as a team. Touch on fundraising, why we do it, and what is involved with fundraising, and sponsorship. Why is that important, and how do we do sponsorship? Because that is a question I get asked all the time. What do you guys do for sponsorship? So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start with outreach and to start off with. What is outreach? Outreach is really how your team spreads inspiration, builds relationships, and strengthens themselves in the STEM community. So we need to be sharing first values with the community, and that actually tells the community what we are doing as a team. Inspiring others to explore STEM and robotics. So by sharing this information, you're going to get that interest in your team, and you're going to be building meaningful relationships and collaborations going forward. And through that, you can give back to the community, as well as even mentoring other teams or mentoring young kids or young team members that do come through as newbies each year in, year out. Okay, so why does outreach really matter? Outreach isn't just a requirement. It helps the team grow stronger and become more sustainable. We find that it strengthens our team's community support in the area in which we are, and I suppose at the same time, you are able to recruit a lot of new students, mentors, and sponsors. So it actually really also helps to engage your students to be able to lead, to communicate, and also to help them to learn how to plan. And these are skills that not everywhere that the students and mentors mentors will teach you, but our students will be able to learn within the team. And obviously this contributes enormously for Impact Award with FRC, and also with Inspire Award with FTC events. FLL as well, when you go for getting up and talking about the robot design, the community projects that is involved with the FLL as well. And then obviously that expands into all of our STEM values at first as well. So, who do we reach in outreach? Really, we like to get students to be able to be involved, and in so they inspire our future, become the future inspiration for our future innovators of STEM. And they really giving that autonomy to your students in the team actually helps them to build those soft skills as well. It also helps it connecting with your community in terms of families and youth in your area, and also just straight just going directly to families like by word of mouth within your team members as well. And that obviously by word of mouth just spreads into all different areas and areas that you would not even imagine. And lastly, public, because you want to be promoting robotics and STEM and first in your area. And that really that is actually the essence of getting into outreach to be able to promote your team, promote what First is doing, and promoting what the programs actually, how they benefit you as a team, and the impact that it has had on yourselves as students, as mentors, and also as lead mentors and head coaches, because it does impact our lives in terms of what fulfillment we get at the end of the day and how we can give back even more. Okay. So, outreach really does uh, come in line with the first core values, and we see that with the awards, with and the gracious professionalism. Who? Thank you. The competition that happens on field and at any event to at the end of the day, and being inclusive in terms of uh, getting everybody to join in and enjoy the event, whether it's an outreach event or whether it's actually a comp, need to be able to be inclusive as well. And obviously, teamwork makes the dream work. So teamwork is obvious is really important. And then discovery and innovation. So that's what STEM's all about: discovering your talents, discovering something that you don't know about, and being able to be the future innovators of our time today. Um, yeah. Okay. So now fundraising. Fundraising at first is very interesting. Why fundraising? Why fundraise at all? Basically, running a team can be very expensive, as most mentors know about, and it can be like just basic expenses like registration, whether it's for one event or two events, having the hardware and the stock available for students to actually be able to construct at their leisure, at their speed, whatever they need. It costs money. The tools to build the robot, not to mention the transportation to get the robot, especially the FRC robot, is highly expensive, as many FRC mentors would know. So a lot of these teams need to have at least a minimum of some, I believe, to be really highly competitive, about 15 to $20,000 worth of expenditure in terms of dollars. And often this can be more, it can be less. It depends on how competitive you want to go or how elaborate you want to go, I suppose. So fundraising really helps to be able to provide these resources and for teams, and really to be able to not just be able to have those resources, but also to teach the technical side of what those parts or those hardware that we have in stock in our team stock boxes, what they do and what benefit that they have. And also just to grow the program itself, it takes a lot of money. So year in, year out, things improve, they change, they evolve, and these costs become um, always escalating. So this is another reason why we fundraise. And really working with students within your team to be able to put a fundraising plan together is really important because it not just teaches the team members what the real world um, expenditure is and what happens in terms of budgeting, in terms of forecasting, what we're going to be needing for that upcoming season, but also being able to have those deadlines to be able to meet the competition timings with so that we have all those technical resources and expertise to be able to really be ready for be competition ready more than anything. Okay. So why fundraise? Why else would you want to fundraise? You really don't need to have a financial background or a professional background um, to fundraise. You can do grant writing or do donor development to be successful with your fundraising. All you need is just really a willingness to have a go at it. Choose to take one grant and then slowly expand on it. It does take time, but at the same time, you learn a lot. And by the time you end up finishing your grant proposal, you will be so inspired to be, oh, well, you have this extra burst of energy to be able to get out there and do another one. That's what I felt like when I did my first one. But that said, there's no right way or there's no wrong way to fundraise. You can do what feels right for you and for your team. But the key thing is that you need to start off with a plan. For your team, where do you want to go with your team? Do you want to go into the community? How do you want to get the people involved in your area and in your community to work for you as well and to help you to be able to achieve those goals with getting the funds in? But that said, every team is unique. And what works for one year or for one team may not always work for another year or another team. Um, but that's okay because it's what works for you and for your team. Okay. So, what is the key to successful fundraising? I get this question all the time, and there really isn't anything really special, or there's no secret. The key to be successful with fundraising is literally preparation and making sure that the work before you actually get to that point where you're filling out grant applications or doing the physical fundraising in terms of the paperwork, you have a structure involved and you've worked and asked for the support within your team that's able to give you that information because you may not have all that information if you're let's say you're a student that's been doing a bit of build and you've come in, this is your first year and you're interested still to get into it. You need to understand how the team works or how the team is working in terms of where the money is flowing in, what we need to raise money for, what are the most important areas. So again, coming back to, we need to get that data, and that data is usually from speaking to others in the team, which makes your fundraising plan to become smoother and more efficient. And that said, for team sustainability, it is really important that teams try to end a season with some sort of a little bit of a pot of cash at the end just to help them to be able to get to that next stage and see those returns from the fundraising to be kicking in even for the start of the next season. And that time that you want to be maybe doing it off season, you want to do some workshops and you've got that little bit of extra funds to be able to kickstart that off, to be able to go to the next stage of fundraising. But that said, your team doesn't have to have a surplus every single year. But it's good to start to build upon it, to think about it, build upon it, build your fundraising goals, build your budget, because a budget can just be a basic, what are we going to get in and what are we going to go, what's going to go out. And really, that's all you need. You need to just have a goal and work towards that. Okay, so speaking of budgeting, creating a budget. You don't have to be really good at maths for this. You don't have to have any financial or professional background. Creating a budget for your team is crucial for your success, for every season, and every year. You need to have a thorough understanding of what your minimum expenses are. So that is just, when I say minimum expenses, it's like, what is it going to cost to register? What is it going to cost to put that robot together? Is it going to be a basic robot? Is it going to be little more complicated? How much do you want to put into your robot, I suppose, is the question. It is a good to have a wish list. What I say is nice to haves. Nice to haves doesn't mean that you have to buy it. Nice to have is, okay, if we are able to raise extra funds, then we can put that aside for the nice to haves. That could be like um, we're just doing FTC at the moment. So like an Axon server for a servo, that helps you with the torque and everything. And when I was approached about buying this as a team mentor, I was like, how much does it cost? And do we have funds? And so it was like, oh, Singithi, it's this much. I was like, okay, we've done a bit of fundraising, so we've got a little bit of cash in the kitty, so we can definitely go and help that. So you really want to be knowing the difference between what your expenses are and what your income is, because that'll actually help to um, create your goals and your fundraising goals and your budget. And it could be $1,000. It could be $40,000. It could be $50,000. It just depends how much you and your team are considering to put into that season. At the same time, um, you don't have to have all that much. You can have just $1,000. And I remember starting off with $1,000 and we just kind of grew. And it can be the most primitive. Like I remember going to Worlds, we had a wooden bot. It was very interesting. But at the same time, it does give you history and it gives you strength to build on from where you started to where you want to go. You also must consider, and I say a must, but it is something really good to consider in terms of growth for your team. So, how do you want to grow your team? And you may want to keep a little bit of fundraising money to expand and do some courses for team members as a team to be able to grow that team. So, you want to look at team growth. Um, and the other aspect, I suppose, is tools and machinery. Um, I suppose, rookie teams won't have a lot of tools or won't have a lot of machinery. So you really need to look at what is your, I suppose, what they call capital expenditure, which is going to be machinery and tools that you're going to have year in, year out, which fingers crossed don't break. And you've got a warranty, you've looked at your warranty, but you've got that in your stock and in your warehouse that you can actually use year in, year out, and how much you're going to actually fundraise if you want to expand on that. And that could be just even buying a 3D printer. You may want to raise money for, it could be a $300 3D printer, it could be a $6,000 3D printer, but it is what you can afford and what as a team together. So remember, we love the teamwork. Okay. Yep. So the other
And just
considerations,
can
yep,
I ask a question just before you move
sure.
on? You mentioned putting aside money so that team members could do courses. I'm just
Yeah.
curious to know what sort of courses your team members have done recently.
Right. So our team members do different courses. So we do some CAD courses. We also do career path planning pathways. So I get involved with industry to be able to do some courses for my team members to help them with their planning for their tertiary studies or their studies just outside of school. Or if you're homeschooled, like we actually have some homeschool kids, what they want to do going forward. So we help to actually plan some courses for them to develop their skills. So it could be even a presentation skill courses. So I might put together work with some industry people that they can actually attend some presentation courses to help them get up in and speak in front of crowds and things. So those types of things is what I really put a little bit of money aside for, so that the team can actually develop those soft skills, not necessarily big presentations and things like that, but we do try and put that also implementation when they go into competitions and things like that.
Nice. That's very interesting. Thanks for that.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay, so we're just going to touch on what ex I'm not sure whether everyone knows what expenses and income is, but in terms of expenses, it's really what your anticipated costs are for that season. So you've got your registration fees, and that obviously varies between FLL, FTC, and FRC, and also First Global as well if you're doing the Global Challenge. The robot parts, the tools, and the small supplies like your nuts, bolts, nails, your spacers, your washers, your gears, sprockets, all that. And any other overheads that the mentors can actually let you know that they have. And travel expenses, like whenever we go for team competition, we try and do team dinners or we do little souvenirs for everyone as a, I suppose, a commemorative, like a badge or something like that. We'll try and 3D print that, or we'll do like a sticker thing to add on to their t-shirts. So those type of small things also, they still cost money. So we need to be able to put that into that budget in terms of the expenses. And also, if you're going to be investing in some equipment, that is a big value item and cost item that you do need to have in your budget. So under your expenses, because that is money going out of your team's account. And also, it's always good to have in your budget, in your expenses area, a nice to have. So what we call contingency. So if we've got some extra funds available, then I always have a little bit of a cushion so that we do have some extra money for so if something goes really badly wrong during build season. But also when we go out, when we go to competitions, or if there's anything during outreach events that we do. And then obviously the biggest item we need to understand, and we are able to do all these things, is the income that we're getting. So that's where are we getting all this money to do all these wonderful things. And you could be a part of a school team, or you could be a community team. It doesn't matter, but your school may want to pay for some things that you may be able to approach your school to pay for some things, or you could approach your community in terms of going out there, putting flyers out there, say, look, this is what we're doing. Come and help. I know we've gone and put things out at our shopping center in terms of joining the team, or come and check us out, or come and donate to us, that type of thing. There's also, I suppose, something that I don't, as RoboCats, we don't really do is we don't really collect activity fees, but I know I've heard of some teams and some organizations, they do actually do ask for like activity fees. So if you're hosting a outreach event, you could actually say maybe $5 to attend the session, and you do an outreach. It could be a CAD workshop or something like that, like a basic CAD workshop, and to do 3D printing, let's say. So you could ask students to come in, put that on our website on like try booking, and then ask them to pay $5 or $10 to be able to attend that, and that'll go towards your fundraising, that little kitty. So that's again some funds coming in to be able to do so that you've got that money there to be allocated for your expenses for that season. Okay, and Financial logistics. This is an interesting area. So the next step is really understanding logistics and how your team will be able to accept that money from people who give it, or accept in-kind money, or in-kind products. So that could be like donations more than this is what we kind of call donations. So there's no right way to accept donations. And it really depends on how your team is structured in terms of, and that probably is something that, as if you're a student, you want to be able to talk to your head mentor, or maybe there's a treasurer in the organization or somebody who does the accounts that can help you to understand what you can and can't do with people who want to donate money to you within your community, or if it's just purely fundraising in terms of money wise, hard cash money, it could be something like a Bunnings fundraising sausage sizzle. So that you don't have to worry about. The mentors will look after all that money that comes in after all the costs that go out for that. But the key is that you tell potential donors that you want to, how you want to make that process for their donation to be seamless. It shouldn't be something difficult where they're going to be struggling to get the funds to you, or the products to you, or material or tools to you. Try and make it as easy as possible for them to be able to engage with you, and that makes their want to do it again for next season more easier. And they'll be like, oh, that was such an easy thing. And they'll, go, oh, we want to definitely help you out, maybe with some more money next season. So definitely look at that type of thing as well. So, simple fundraisers. There's a lot of options with fundraising, and something you can do a small, but you can also do some reliable funding for the team with low effort as well. So, fundraising doesn't have to be like full on. Everyone get involved. It's so stressful. It can be so simple. Fundraisers can have the benefit of getting the team out and really being visible in your community, in your team, and in your school, while generating money for the projects for each season. So, however, I have to say that even if sorry, your team may try running these fundraisers in the same community as many other schools or other community groups. So do bear that in mind, that you want to try and avoid asking the same families and the parents and those same community donors to be contributing at that same time, because you're going to have a lot of other teams asking for the same thing. So even going to your local RSL and speaking to them, because they actually have bit of money, and they would, always willing to help young youth to be able to, and when they see these types of things that we're doing with First, and the programs that we are involved in, a lot of RSL community members are really passionate about supporting you all. So it's definitely something that you can do very easily. It could just be going down to your local shop. Let's say there's a milk bar that's around the corner from your school, and you're friends with them. You go in there all the time, you know them, you can tell them what you're doing, and then say, we are trying to raise money. Can we put a flyer in your on your windows just for fundraising if anyone wants to donate? What we do at RoboCats, we've developed a QR code, and then whoever wants, they can just hold their device and off they go. They can donate. They contact the team, and then we get the mentors to be able to provide them all the necessary information that they need to be able to donate. So those are type of things that you could, just simple things that you can do. You can even do a cake bake sale at your local Bunnings as well. So when we do a sizzle, we also get invited to do cake sales and things like that, or just even demonstrations, just to get the word out. When you get the word out, when you're out there handing pamphlets or flyers, or you're doing a demo or something with your robot, people get interested. They come over, they're like, oh, what's that? And they want to be able to understand what you're all about and what your team's about. And having that energy really is contagious. So I find that when you've got that positive vibe, it carries and everybody will come and you'll be that magnetism towards being able to get those funds for you. Okay, so another simple fundraising that you can do, and this is something that we've used, to be totally honest, when we've qualified for the Worlds, to be able to raise more money, to be able to get to Worlds. And this is something that I think a lot of people know about. So it's crowdfunding or peer-to-peer fundraising. And it's a practice of funding through a project from raising money from many people, making small donations, but it's usually done online. So you can do like the GoFundMe page. There's another one called Classy. So those types of webs are like online website. You write a little blurb about your team, what you do, why you're trying to raise money, what is it for, how you're going to use it, how it's going to impact your team, and you put a little, GoFundMe page up, and it's just word of mouth, and then spreading that around. And some of them, some social media accounts, you can link those to as well. But like Facebook, your Instagram, they're great tools for crowdfunding. So if it's something like even going to regionals or going to a qualifier event and your team hasn't got enough money for registration or something, you could start doing that really early on in the season, during the off season, so that you can actually have those funds in your account, in your team account in time for that. So some of them would like to, you could leave that running, the ad running as well, and you could have that ongoing money coming in all the time. And there is I think there is a field where you can actually put an end date on that. So that is something that I would strongly and highly suggest, that if you do need funding from sources that you're not going to get, but by word of mouth, that's another good way of doing that. How are we doing for time? I hope I'm okay for time. Um, okay,
At
so
7:40, so doing
oh,
well.
that's good. Okay, fantastic. Oh, we're going good. Okay, the other thing is fundraising events. So what we do, we like running fundraising events out during our off season. It does take a bit of effort, it does take a bit of planning, but we what I like to do is at this during the off season, to understand who's interested in fundraising in the team, and then getting that a group of committed people to be able to put all that planning in place. And then it becomes so successful, and everyone ends up having such a great time. And that's from just whether it's just buying small supplies for the event and setting up, to actually on the day event doing, getting out there and talking to people. So, but for all that effort, you can have a big payoff. And I know, like, there was one Bunnings sausage sizzle. It was the first one we did. It was at a a Bunnings warehouse that I would never have even known was there, but it was the most busiest, and I will graciously say this, we did do fairly well with that sizzle. And it was really surprising, because I would never have thought, it's such a quiet little one that I've always gone past. I never really thought about going in, but it was one of the busiest Bunnings sizzles, sausage sizzles that we've done. So, outreach events really do can showcase how you work as a team and to the wider community, and that you are there as a team and promoting STEM and robotics, and that's what we really want to do. And it doesn't matter that you haven't gone to businesses. You can go to businesses, but these types of fundraising small events are as good in terms of sponsorships and things. So yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to stop talking for a little bit, and we're going to break out into some breakout rooms. And what I would like you all to discuss is how you would like to improve your outreach and fundraising for your team. And just take 2 minutes, maybe now, just a quick or a minute to quickly jot down what your current, or if you know what your current outreach and fundraising that you do in your team, and maybe how you can improve that when you get back to your team. So, yeah, and when you're back, so when you're in there, please unmute yourselves, talk, and say who you are, tell them what team you're in, and it just helps us to break that ice and then talk about all the fun things you can do in fundraising and outreach.
Thanks, Sangithi. There is a question in the chat, which I'll read out, and then I might get you to answer after we've come back from the breakout
Okay,
rooms. But the
okay.
question is, on your team, how much of the crowdfunding and fundraising activities are student-led? How do you engage your students with organizing these events? Which is a great question, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you want to have a think about that one, I'm going to
Sure.
quickly organize these breakout rooms, and I'm
Okay.
also going to pause the recording.
I am. So Mel, there was a question that was on the chat. Is that correct? Can you just sorry, on the yes. That
Yes.
was, can
So
you
the
just
question,
yeah, remind me
I'll
what
read
the question was?
Yeah, I'll read it out again.
Thank
The
you.
question was on your team,
Mhm.
when it comes to the crowdfunding and fundraising activities, how much of that is student-led, and how do you engage your students with organizing these events?
Okay, so what we do with the crowdfunding is we do have that to be, I would say, 90% student led, because it's not really what we as mentors want to be. Like our perspective of how to do that crowdfunding, what we want potential donors to provide or to see is not our perspective. So I always get the students to get involved and write that up. Obviously, I'll do a bit of a read through it to make sure everything is all good and looking professional, but that is very much student led. And in terms of success rates, it has been successful where we were able to raise money for team members that weren't so financially well off to be able to go to Worlds. So we were able to contribute a portion of that money. Well, we basically broke up those the fundraising that we did through crowdfunding to support those team members that needed a little extra support. So yeah, so I do find that that is really good when you're going to large events, even a regional event. It really does work. And I've seen a lot of US teams do a lot of crowdfunding on GoFundMe, especially. You'll see, like, even if you do a little bit of a Google search on GoFundMe and you put first, it you'll just get pages and pages of even just current or expired projects or fundraising that they've done. But it is definitely something that does work. But you do have to put a bit of time into it in terms of getting it set up. So I will put that disclaimer that it does take it takes a few good solid days to actually get it all set up correctly, and make sure the accounts are correct and all that. So there is a bit of technical aspect that the mentors do need to get involved. It cannot be purely student led. You do need to have mentor involvement.
Great, thanks for that.
Okay, superb. All right. So we're going to now move on to sponsorship at first. So what is the difference really between sponsorship and grant? These terms can be very blurry, and these terms are often used interchangeably by teams, by the public, by donor organizations. So we need to really be able to define what sponsorship and grant is. And for the purposes of this presentation, sponsorship I'm going to refer to as contributions made by a company or an organization that your team has directly solicited for a donation outside of an application process. And a grant, I'm referring to contributions made from a foundation or other grant-making organization that also requires an application and a selection process. So, what if you'll see that there's a firstinspires.org programs team grant opportunities. That is the site where you can go in and you can see all the grant applications that's First will be supporting all teams with. There are grant requirements, so I will put that disclaimer that it sometimes not all grants will be applicable to Australian teams. I find that there is very minimal, which is really sad. I really am. I've taken the kind of person now to really try and get these US people to say, get us more grant funding, because when we get funding, they get more international exposure. So why not support us down here, down under? So this is, but I have to say, you can go to that website and that will give you a little bit of insight as to what opportunities are available on First. How to find sponsors. So the most reliable way of finding sponsors is to really leverage your personal connections that you can easily identify. So that can be mentors, it can be parents even who in the community or in industry that can support your team. You can also just pick up the phone and call potential sponsors, whether it's through email, a phone call, you go in person, and you can go back to all the work that you put into preparing your sponsorship information and crafting what your team story is. So before you approach any potential sponsor or grantor, make sure you have what your team story is, what you are about as a team, and why you are doing this, and what you're trying to achieve by getting this funding. I will tell you a quick little story that when I first started getting a lot of these, our business team involved, the girls were like, "Oh, how do we do this? I don't know how to do it. Oh, we'll just call." So we did phone calling. We just did hard calling. We had a list of companies and numbers, and we just did hard calling. And a couple of them actually got through, and which was fantastic. But then they thought, okay, this is not good enough. We need to go out on the road and really feel that we've done some hard work. So they went to all the businesses around where we were at that time, and they literally knocked on everyone's door, waited patiently. They spent the whole, like our workshop session was literally the whole team going to all different businesses around our workshop, knocking on doors and sitting there waiting for someone to talk to them. And when they finally got through, it was like, sure, here's our email, here's our business card, please contact us via email. And they came out with these long faces. But I was like, it doesn't matter. Guess what? You got through. That means you've got to win. Now comes the hard work. Now let's get together and really give them all the things that they should be giving us money for, or their hard-earned money for, to support us. So this is I find that sometimes that a way of doing it really does work as well. The other thing is you need to know your key points about why someone would want to give you sponsorship, the team that is, and how you're going to benefit from that sponsorship money that you're going to get. So you need to have that hard work in black and black and white before you actually go out there. So that is a bit of work that you do need to, like homework, let's say, that you do need to do. Okay, now where to find sponsors besides the couple that I mentioned earlier. So I get my team to make a list of people that they know, from mentors to grandparents to some of our kids have part-time casual jobs, so they're employers. And then even just, some familiar companies that they've seen at first competitions. And then or I'm speaking with a mentor that they spoke with, they've met somewhere else on another team. It could be even a parent who's an employee of a organization that first does have sponsorship with. They could come and speak on your behalf, on the team's behalf, and at least get you and the team in there to talk to them a bit more. So that's in terms of team involvement. In terms of local businesses, what the way we really promote them is having them on our back. And I think all of if our first teams, they like to put the sponsors on the back, which show our appreciation and our pride in having them on our I suppose on our t-shirts when we wear them. But that in itself also inspires other organizations to be able to come and say, hey, that's an interesting team. Let's have a chat to that team and talk about. So when you wear your team shirt and you're out in the shopping center because you're so thirsty on a hot day, your mom's told you to go and pick up a Slurpee from the 7-Eleven, wear your team shirt proudly because sometimes that can get you the money through the door. So that also does have an effect as well. The other thing we do, I think a lot of people who know RoboCats, especially the FRC team, we do a lot of social media. So look at because your sponsors do have a lot of social media presence, especially their media team. So having your team acknowledge them on social media, that also helps as well. So that's another way of getting more funding because they see how many times you are putting them on or you're addressing them or you're attaching them with the links and all that, and they see that you're doing so much and you are marketing them as well, because this is a different type of marketing that they get from your team. So and your social media account, so that also helps as well. The other, I suppose, more quieter sponsorship is in-kind sponsorship. So I don't know whether a lot of you know about in-kind, but basically what it is it's instead of a donation of money, it's really like a donation of material or parts, or some sort of a service or a good that you need to be able to use during your build season. So something, for example, Bunnings. Bunnings sometimes can give you gift cards, and that is what you call an in-kind sponsorship, where they give you a gift card so that you can buy tools and supplies to build your robot. So that is an in-kind. So you would want to put Bunnings and acknowledge them as in-kind sponsors on whether it's your team website or you want to do a banner up in your workshop, or just in your marketing material that you do as well. So as you reach out to sponsors, use that list to identify the companies that you do want to approach, and you want to really give them a personalized shout out, so to speak, and that will help you to get money in for your team as well. The other things that's extremely important after doing all this fundraising and going out there and doing sponsorship work is, how do you maintain these sponsorship relations? You need the key to having a sponsor year in, year out, in terms of retention, is adds to your sustainability of your team. So you want to be efficient, you want to be effective, and you want to be able to keep your existing sponsor every single year. You want to be able to get them to give you more money next year, or even the same amount, that's fine. But that means that you can rely on those funds coming in from that sponsor. So it's harder to start from scratch each year. It really is. It's much easier to be able to work with your sponsors that you have, to be able to have that funding for next year as well, and show them. You really need to show them how much that their investment in your team has benefited you as a team. So sponsors really want to see how their contribution has impacted to the team's success in whatever way that you define that success is. Okay, so grants. Grants are less about approaching companies and asking for donations. It's really a focus on an application process for funds that is available for your organization, or sorry, from organizations and foundations and other grant making or institutions. So there's a lot of grant funding at the moment with First. There's lots coming through First Australia from Aaron. So I would highly suggest that you grab those and you complete those. Whether it if it's a student-led grant application, mentors, please do have a read through it just to make sure that everything is above board, because obviously, these are professional people that these grants are going to be read by. You want to be able to put your best foot forward and to show that your team really needs that money, because you guys are all professional and you're mature and you know how to write these reports. Sorry, applications, I beg your pardon. Sometimes the applications can be very short. It could be a very simple one, such as just filling out 2 questions. Some can be really lengthy in terms of you've got to prepare a budget, you've got to give a very detailed budget outline. They want data, they want statistics. So before signing a grant application, you need to I highly recommend you take the time out to review what the application requires in terms of the questions and what information they're asking, and then see what data you do have available and what you need to be able to gather the resources in order for you to complete that. As I mentioned earlier, First has partnered with some companies and to provide team grants directly to First teams by the dashboard. So when applying for these grants, please understand that the restrictions about how those funds can or can not be used. Some may be used only to pay for registration fees, for example, and they may need to be used within that season, that specific date period. But you can find more of these on your First dashboard grants, on First re-granting process page as well, and also the First Inspires page, that the link that I had earlier on. And grant application questions. So if you haven't applied for a grant, these are the types of questions that you're going to be asked. Describe your organization's goals. What is your team's mission or vision? Describe your specific program and its history. Explain about your annual budget and how you arrived at that budget. So they want to really understand that you know your marbles in terms of where your money is going for your team. What makes your program unique to another team's program? And how do you define and measure success for your team? How would funding help your organization? And why should that organization provide funding to your organization? So these are really good questions, but these are very common questions that are asked in grant applications. So I do recommend that you spend a bit of time doing that. And I think maybe to kickstart the grant process, mentors support the kids to be able to write the report and maybe have a skeleton structure, because that's what I did. I had a skeleton structure, and I got my students to be able to understand how to write it and what to involve, where to look for the information, and what is and also putting in their experience as well. Student experiences in grant applications really, as testimonials, become really important, and I think are a good reflection of how well the team works and how well how you can see that success in your program as a team. Yes, and that concludes my presentation. I'm sorry it's gone a little bit over, but thank you so much for listening today. And I hope that my advice and my experiences will inspire you to go out and make your own impact on the First community and your local community and the rest of the world. So together, I say we keep growing the First community and showing the world what's possible when technology meets teamwork. So thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks so much, Singithi. That was a fantastic presentation. I really liked your overview of the budget stuff in particular. I think I might have to steal some of that content. It was a really good, accessible, sort of way into understanding all of the stuff that goes in there. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Audience members are welcome to put questions into the chat. I'll leave that
I'm sharing
option
now.
open for a minute or two. Otherwise, if there's no chat questions, I'll stop the recording, and then anyone who wants to unmute and have a chat at the end is welcome to do that. While I just wait to see, I was curious because you mentioned the courses earlier about presentations. Have you ever come across a course for like grant writing skills? I know it's quite specific, but it occurred to me that might be useful.
It is quite specific, and there aren't many. There are grant writing courses for mentors,
Mm,
but not so much for students. So what I do is I actually ended up attending about 3 grant writing courses, and then I formulated something that's really tailored to the teams that I run. And I mentor quite a few FLL teams and FRC teams. So I put together FRC teams in schools and then support them as well. So I try and I share those models with well, ideas how they can do it as well so that they can they can really apply for grants, not just within first but also within the communities that they're in. So
mm,
yeah, they obviously demographics do help. But at the same time, demographics, schmographics, it just doesn't matter. As long as you can show passion in your grant, I think I think that's what is really important. And just make sure that your numbers all,
mm.
stick in and are justifiable and
Yeah, I
reasonable.
find it's
Yeah.
also quite different when you look at the grant applications for the first specific grants
Yeah.
versus like community or business grants. It's a very different approach, which has been an interesting one. We have students much more involved in the first specific grants. I feel like they're more
Yeah.
accessible,
Yes.
but the community business grants tend to be more done by the mentors because there's so much
Yes.
more detail go into those.
There is. I know I filled out a grant recently, and that took me literally 3 days to complete because of the amount of questions. And questions can be, how do I say, so marginally different, just with one word. So it's really important to be able to read those questions and see exactly what are they asking, because you can't copy the same thing and put it into the next question, which I did when I first started, and it was so funny. And they're like, "You did, huh?" I said, "Oh, how can I?" The other thing I really do recommend is go back to your grantors and ask them, how can you improve? That's when I
Yeah,
got to learn about why did you copy this answer to that answer? It was asking to. I'm like, oops. So, yeah, so, those types of things is really important. Even with sponsorship, any application, what can we do better next time in order
mm,
to secure that grant or that sponsorship? Because
yeah.
it's something that we know that you have a try and align their goals and their values with your team values and see how you can actually blend that in, because that
Yeah.
actually helps as well.
That's very good advice. We do have one question in the
Yeah.
chat, which is what types of businesses would you say are the most likely to give sponsorships?
That's a very
Probably,
good question.
probably in the context of like local community businesses, I think, thinking about like, going out and knocking on
Yeah.
doors. Where have you
Because
had success?
success is really a lot more industrial. So, going to how to say, people like, who is it? Ultronics, where you get
Yeah.
so in Melbourne we've got Ultronics, so we buy a lot of electrical stuff from them. So
Mm,
they've now become a small sponsor where they give us in-kind sponsorship in terms of like discounts when we purchase things. So those types of things, those types of organizations. The other one would be going to organizations such as like uh, tool organizations, companies that have, big tools. One of our big sponsors is a company called Hair and Forbes, and they do a lot of big machinery, also small machinery, but they did a lot of our in-kind sponsorship by actually laser cutting our metal. So that was something that we approached them because we attended an expo. We met them. They were really interested in what our robot was doing. And then we just got to talking. And then they're like, "Oh, we'd love to support you guys." So you just never know who you're going to meet. You could be walking down in the city and you bump into somebody and they want to come and help you. So you just, I would say, in terms of the answering more specifically, it's really so industrial type of companies
Yeah.
that were probably more suited to what we do in workshop would be probably the best that you could. I can almost say that they will want to help you. Even, people like you go and get like spaces and but nuts and bolts places.
Yeah.
They love to
Yeah.
give you
Resellers.
yeah, exactly. Anything counts. Everything
Yeah.
counts. So, yeah, I find that that's really good. I remember when we exhibited at the F1 for 4 days in a row this year at the Innovation Hub at the Formula One. And I was talking to some kids, and then a gentleman came up and go, "Oh, I work for BHP." And I said, "Oh my God, you know how," and I was like, "You know how hard it is to get through the BHP." And anyway, I was having a bit of a stir with him. And then before you know it, he's like, "We'd love to support you girls." And we're like, "Thank you so much." And this is the thing, it's like the most, you least of places that you would think you would get
Yeah.
a sponsor you find. So that's why I say it's always good to, and this is what I say to all my team members, or all my girls and boys also in our FTC team. Um, always be always dressed really well, always have a smile on your face, and be ready to talk robotics, because you just never know who you're going to meet. And if you show the energy, like a positive vibe and an energy and the passion when you start talking, they just want to be part. They people want your energy. They want that positive vibe, and they want to be there. They want to help that positive become even greater. So, yeah, that's where I would go, and that's how I would do it.
Absolutely. All
Yeah.
right, well, thank you so much for that. What I might do now is end the recording. I see we've got one hand up, and so I'm going to give people the opportunity to unmute and talk, but I will end the recording before that. But very quickly, again, Sangeeta, thank you so much for this fantastic presentation.
My
Really
pleasure.
appreciate the time. Really great to hear from you.
Thank
And
you.
I'll end here, and you'll see this on YouTube later on.
Awesome. Thank you so much.